Top 10 PlayStation 4 Moments. As the PS4 generation comes to a close, I wanted to make a video going through the best or most defining moments that shaped one of the best consoles of all time. So with no further ado, and in no particular order, Number 1. Uncharted had brought us 3 brilliant games on the PlayStation 3. The final installment for Nathan Drake reached new heights using the power of the PS4. With A Thief's End, the action sequences went that extra level, with destruction, environments and character design all being top notch. Later, Lost Legacy would continue this series, with a new lead character, Chloe Fraser, from Uncharted 2 and 3, and use a more open environment than previous Uncharted games. Still, it was able to keep the blockbuster set pieces that demonstrated that Naughty Dog knew exactly what they were doing when it came to the action-adventure category.
Go as fast as I can! We're gonna be close! Holy shit! Yeah. You good? Yeah. Let's get out of here.
Number 2. Bloodborne was one of the early exclusives to the system from the developers of Demon's Souls and Dark Souls. Following a similar formula, this roguelike upped the ante with a grim, unique vision of a fantasy, gothic, Victorian era setting, with fantastic creature design, suitable maze-like levels and a ton of blood. For me, this is the best of the Souls-like games, with gameplay favouring a risk versus reward combat system. Death is waiting around every corner, and you're gonna die a lot. Number 3. After successes with MotorStorm on PlayStation 3, the developer decided to emulate the formula of the classic Project Gotham Racing from the OG Xbox. So instead of dirt, grime and a lot of mud, it was using a more challenge-focused arcade racer feel. So with the new game Drive Club, it was meant to be a hybrid racer / social media platform, which was always doomed to fail. What it didn't fail in though, was being an impressive arcade racer, with weather effects so realistic and visually impressive even later racing games still can't compete. Just look at the raindrops and the lightning. It really emulates Scotland perfectly. Later in the generation, more realistic driving simulators would come out, like Gran Turismo and Project Cars, that have spot-on physics and higher fidelity graphics. But Drive Club filled that niche of a superb arcade racer and beautiful art direction that the system needed at the time. Number 4. A new breed of PlayStation exclusive was born on the PS4. The open world single player games that followed were heavy on story and light on the grind, which Ubisoft and Warner Bros. Games would have the complete opposite of. The first was Horizon Zero Dawn, which had a female lead Aloy fight mechanical dinosaurs in a post-apocalyptic setting where nature had reclaimed our cities. It had some truly outstanding vistas, but even better combat. Next to come along was not an original IP, but followed in the theme. Marvel's Spider-Man was impressive. New York had never looked this good, and flying through the streets was truly exhilarating. Days Gone introduced us to Deacon St. John, one of the most ridiculous names in video games. Basically Daryl from The Walking Dead, but a little bit more psychotic. The game had a huge open world, which was a joy to drive on Deacon's bike. The zombie-like freakers were varied enough, and handling a horde was always a thrill. The game boasted several different environments, from open plain deserts to snowy mountains, and there was always an ambush around every corner. A complete anarchist all the way. The most recent game to follow the established formula was Ghost of Tsushima. From violent samurai combat to serene calming forests and streams, it's definitely the most impressive open world of the generation. This is definitely the only game in my collection where my captures from photos and making short movies is actually getting to the same size of the game installation at about 33 gigabytes. And you can see why. Number 5. Remakes and remasters have been attempted on the previous generation, though mostly just HD versions. With PS4, we started to get some truly great versions. Resident Evil 2 was not only a perfect remaster of the original PS1 title, but is by far the best Resi game in years. For a lot of people, including myself, it's probably in their top 5 games of the generation. Not only does it get being a game so perfectly by not being afraid to rely on tropes of the genre, but by doing so leads to some exquisite moments of gameplay. The moments of horror here are sublime, and the body deformation is truly gross. Later in the game, when Mr. X shows up, it reaches new levels that we did not think of possible from a remaster. This is a game that I can just keep going back to again and again, and with 2 different characters and 2 different versions of their stories, there's a lot of content here for the game, and it's quite cheap at the moment. If you haven't picked this one up, could not recommend more than enough.
Jesus Christ! Shit! get moving.
Shadow of the Colossus. On its third version now, after a half-baked HD version for the PlayStation 3, Bluepoint have turned one of my favourite games of all time into something jaw-dropping on the PS4. With 4K support and, more importantly, a performance mode for near 60 frames per second and HDR lighting, now finally matches the scope of the original version. Taking down each one of these mighty creatures has never looked so good, and by the end you'll even consider giving The Last Guardian another go. Uda makes some unique games, but Shadow of the Colossus is definitely the best. In this category, it's always worth making a quick shout out for Toys for Bob, with remakes of Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, have also been top notch and can demonstrate how this generation has made most of our nostalgia. Please see part 2 for numbers 6 to 10. Coming soon.